When the wedding invitations went out, I already knew I wasn't going to get one. I didn't need a mailed reminder of my status in the family pecking order. My cousin Delilah was getting married, big, fancy white glove affair. The kind she'd been dreaming about since we were little girls playing pretend with lace curtains and paper bouquets. And now that it was real, I knew exactly what role I'd be playing. None. It stung more than I expected. I'd been preparing myself for it for months, ever since Delilah got engaged to that guy, Grant, corporate lawyer, went to Yale, born with a trust fund and a smug smile. We'd met once at a family brunch. I remember him shaking my hand and calling me Sandra, even though my name is Sienna. I corrected him politely. He didn't apologize. Still, I smiled. That's what I do. I don't cause trouble. I've spent most of my life trying to prove I could be gracious, even when people treated me like background noise. My mom didn't take it well. She didn't say it outright, but she kept bringing up the mistake she was sure must have happened. Maybe your invitation got lost in the mail, sweetheart, she'd say while washing dishes, hands trembling slightly. Maybe they're just doing a small thing. Mom, I told her gently one night, they're renting a castle with a lake. It's not small. I'm just not invited. She didn't argue after that. Just went quiet and turned the volume up on the TV. A few weeks later, I was sitting on the couch with my boyfriend, Mark, watching a rerun of some home renovation show. He was scrolling through his phone when Delilah's name popped up in a newsy little Facebook post that someone had tagged me in. Asterisk, can't wait for the wedding at Lakeside Crest. Counting down the days for Delilah and Grant ring sparkles, asterisk. Lakeside Crest. I felt my stomach flip. That venue was one of the most exclusive in the entire state. I'd only seen photos of it online and in bridal magazines. Vaulted ceilings, chandeliers the size of minivans, glass walls overlooking a mirror-flat lake. It cost more to rent for a single night than most people made in a year. Mark noticed me staring at the screen. "What is it?" he asked, nudging my leg with his knee. I didn't answer right away. Finally, I said, "Delilah's wedding. It's at Lakeside Crest." Mark blinked. "Wait, seriously? That's wild." "Yeah," I mumbled. "I guess she's going all out." He stared at me for a moment. "Did you say Lakeside Crest?" "Yeah." "Why?" A slow grin crept across his face. "My dad owns that place." I turned my head so fast it made my neck crack. "What?" "Yeah," he said, laughing. "Well, technically his company does. He has a bunch of high-end venues across the state. Lakeside Crest is like his crown jewel." I stared at him, trying to make sense of what he'd just said. "That's your dad's venue?" "Yep." I blinked again. "Does he know who Delilah is?" Mark shook his head. "I doubt it. He doesn't handle individual bookings himself. There's a whole team for that." "But He tilted his head. "Small world." "Very small," I said softly. I felt a strange tightening in my chest. Not anger, exactly. Not yet. Just this quiet weight. Like something was clicking into place, but I didn't know what the picture was yet. Later that evening, Mark's father, Mr. Dalton, called me. He does that sometimes, just to check in. I work in marketing at one of his smaller properties, so we have a decent relationship. Nothing too personal, but warm enough. We talked shop for a few minutes, and then he brought it up, casually, like he was mentioning the weather. "Mark told me you've been dealing with some family drama," he said. I paused. "A bit," I admitted, cautious. "Just awkward stuff. A cousin getting married. I wasn't invited. It's not a big deal." There was a silence, the kind that stretches just long enough to make you feel like maybe it is a big deal. "She's having the wedding at one of our venues, isn't she?" he asked. I hesitated. "Yes. Lakeside Crest." Another pause. I could hear papers shuffling on his end. "What's her name?" he asked. "Delilah Bennett," I said slowly. "She's marrying Grant Calloway." "Ah," Mr. Dalton said. His tone shifted just slightly, more focused now. "Interesting." Then he said the words that sent a chill straight through me. "Let me look into something. I'll call you back." I barely slept that night. I kept rolling onto my side, then onto my back, then staring at the ceiling while Mark snored gently beside me. My mind wouldn't quiet. It looped over and over the conversation I'd had with Mr. Dalton. The tone in his voice. The slight edge when he said, Let me look into something. Asterisk. It didn't sound like small talk. It sounded like a red flag. I finally gave up on sleep and got up around 5 a.m., pacing the kitchen in my slippers, nursing a cup of tea that had long since gone cold. I couldn't shake this feeling that something wasn't right. Why would Mr. Dalton, a man who runs venues for elite clientele, suddenly get so interested in a single wedding? What did he see or hear that made him pause? At 7:14 a.m. he called. I answered before the second ring. "Sienna," he said, not bothering with small talk. "I think we need to talk. In person." That sentence alone set every nerve in my body on edge. "I can come to the office," I offered, trying to keep my voice calm. "No," he replied. "Come to Lakeside Crest. There's something I want you to see." By 9 a.m., I was pulling into the long, curved drive that led up to Lakeside Crest. The property looked even more beautiful in person than it had online. Arched stone entryways, polished fountains, carefully curated landscaping that must have cost more than my entire apartment. It was the kind of place designed to impress, to awe, and apparently to deceive. Mr. Dalton met me at the main doors, holding a black folder in his hand. He looked unusually serious. No charming grin, no easy confidence. Just business. "Let's talk inside," he said. "The event manager is finishing up a call, but she printed the paperwork." We walked through the front lobby in silence, past an enormous chandelier that twinkled like stars. The silence pressed down harder with each step. Finally, he led me into a conference room off the main hallway and closed the door behind us. Then he placed the folder on the table and opened it, revealing a stack of crisp documents. I could see the venue logo, the contract headers, and names typed in bold near the top. Then I saw mine. Client reference name, Sienna Blake. I stared. "Wait, what?" Mr. Dalton tapped the paper gently. "That's what I wanted to show you. This contract, Delilah's wedding, was submitted under your name." I blinked. "But I didn't sign anything. I didn't even know about this." "I know," he said. "That's the problem." He flipped the page. There was a scanned signature at the bottom of the form. A signature that looked almost like mine, but not quite. The loops were off. The B in Blake looked too clean, too rehearsed. "I had my legal team double-check it," he continued. "This was filed 2 months ago, under the premise that you, a staff member connected to the Dalton Group, were the bride's cousin. Which fine, true. But what raised flags was the discount." "Discount?" I echoed. He nodded. "Our employees and their direct family can qualify for a substantial discount for personal events. Up to 50%, depending on the case. In this application, the bride and groom claimed that you were not only aware but had submitted the paperwork on their behalf." I couldn't speak. I just sat there, staring at the paper, the words swimming before my eyes. My name, my workplace, my forged signature. It was all there, perfectly framed in a lie I hadn't known existed until now. "They used me," I finally said, the words catching in my throat. "They used my name to get a discount." Mr. Dalton nodded. "That's what it looks like." I sank back in my chair. The shock was giving way to something deeper. A slow, crawling heat in my chest. Anger. "She didn't even invite me," I whispered. "Not to the wedding. Not to the bridal shower. Nothing. But she had no problem pretending I was part of it when it benefited her." Mr. Dalton folded his hands. "That's fraud, Sienna." The word rang in my ears. Fraud. And not just casual deception. This was written, signed, submitted. It was paperwork. Policy. Money. And I worked here. My name being tied to this could have real consequences. "What do I do?" I asked, the panic beginning to bloom. "Am I in trouble?" I didn't. "You're not," he cut in firmly. "I believe you. We've worked together long enough, and your file is spotless. But you need to know that this could have put your job and your reputation in serious danger." He paused, then added carefully, "We're canceling the event." I looked up. "You are?" He nodded once. "Effective immediately. The moment I confirmed the signature wasn't yours, the contract became void. We'll refund any payments made. The event planner will inform the bride and groom this afternoon. And I wanted you to hear it from me first." I exhaled, slow and shaky. "Thank you," I said. for believing me. He offered a small smile. Of course. But something in his eyes told me this wasn't over. Not yet. That night, my phone started buzzing. Fast and often. It began with my cousin Danny, who never calls. Just a text. Did you hear what's going on with Delilah's wedding? Then another message from someone I barely spoke to anymore. OMG, Sienna, what did you do? And then, a call from my own mother. Her voice was low and breathless when I picked up. Sienna, something's happening at the venue. People are being told to leave. They said the event's been canceled. And your name came up. My mother's voice crackled through the phone, filled with a strange mix of confusion, accusation, and something close to fear. Your name came up. I stood frozen in the kitchen, clutching the phone so tightly my fingers ached. My tea had gone cold again. Outside, the world looked deceptively calm, birds chirping, leaves rustling in the wind, but inside me, a quiet storm had started. What do you mean my name came up? I asked slowly, carefully, like I already knew I wouldn't like the answer. Delilah just called your Aunt Teresa, sobbing. Apparently, everything's being canceled. Vendors told to pack up, guests getting emails and texts saying the venue is no longer available. And someone told her you were the reason why. There it was, the twist of a knife. I closed my eyes. Mom, I didn't do anything. I didn't even know about the wedding until a week ago. You remember, I told you she didn't invite me. Now they're saying this is my fault. There was a long pause on the other end. Then my mother sighed, low and heavy. I believe you, sweetheart, but your aunt doesn't. She's convinced you sabotaged the wedding out of spite. Spite! I nearly laughed, but it came out as a choked sound. She should be mad at Delilah for committing fraud, not at me for finding out. You know how your aunt is, my mother said gently. She's always been quick to point fingers, especially when it comes to you. That wasn't new. Aunt Teresa had never quite liked me. I was the daughter who didn't fall in line, didn't play the look how perfect our family is game. I didn't dress the way she approved, didn't follow the same path as Delilah, who was groomed from birth to be a bride out of a Hallmark movie. Perfect Delilah, the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. Except this time she had, and now the fantasy wedding was unraveling because of her lies. That afternoon it all exploded. I was still at work when I saw the Facebook post. Delilah had written it herself. A full essay, the kind people usually type through tears and rage, fingers slamming keys in fury. Asterisk, to everyone who was planning to attend our wedding next week, we are heartbroken to inform you that due to unforeseen circumstances, our venue has decided to cancel our reservation. We are devastated. Some of you may hear rumors that this was because of a fraudulent claim. That is completely false. The venue is trying to cover a mistake they made, and unfortunately, a family member who works there is involved. I won't name names, but we know the truth, and we are hurt beyond words. Asterisk, my name wasn't there, but she didn't need to say it. My inbox filled up within the hour. Texts, DMs, vague subtweets. Some people asked me if I was okay. Some accused me directly. Others, mostly people from our extended family or old classmates, just stirred the pot. And then a message from Delilah herself. Delilah asterisk. Asterisk, you didn't have to do this. You could have just asked. Now everything's ruined. Are you happy? Asterisk. I stared at that message for a long time, my heart pounding, my hands shaking over the keyboard. I typed something, deleted it, typed again, erased it. In the end, I closed my laptop and walked away. I couldn't even trust myself to respond without saying something I'd regret. Because the truth, I wasn't happy. I wasn't gloating. But I also wasn't sorry. What did she expect? That I'd just let her drag my name into her web of lies? That I'd stay silent while she used my job, my reputation, to fund her dream wedding? It wasn't even about the money. It was the betrayal. The next morning, I woke up to something even worse. A voicemail from Human Resources. Hi Sienna, this is Carol from HR. We've received a complaint that we need to address with you. Could you please come by our office today before noon? Thanks. My stomach dropped. I went in, heart hammering in my chest. Carol greeted me with a tight smile and gestured to a seat. She wasn't angry, but her face was unreadable. I want to assure you this is standard protocol, she began. Whenever there's a dispute involving staff and venue use, especially one involving a cancellation, we're required to document all sides. I nodded numbly. Of course. We received a formal statement from a MS, Delilah James, stating that you approved the venue application and were fully aware of the discount usage. That you then changed your mind and deliberately sabotaged her wedding due to a personal falling out. I felt the blood drain from my face. She what? Carol held up a hand. Don't panic. Mr. Dalton already briefed us and showed us the forged paperwork. He also submitted a sworn statement confirming your signature was faked and that you had no involvement. This is just red tape. I exhaled, but it didn't relieve the pressure in my chest. She's really trying to make me the villain, I murmured. Carol gave me a sympathetic look. We've seen this before. Sometimes people panic when their secrets catch up with them. They lash out, but the truth will win out, Sienna. Just keep your head up. By Friday, the fallout was everywhere. Vendors were sharing stories anonymously online. Screenshots of emails started to circulate. One florist posted, without names, that a bride had screamed at her over the phone and threatened to sue. Someone else said the groom's side of the family had started canceling hotel rooms. And then came the final twist I didn't expect. A message from someone I hadn't spoken to in 5 years. My cousin Brielle, Delilah's older sister. We were close once, before life took us in different directions. Before Delilah became the family favorite and Brielle disappeared off to New York, disillusioned with everyone. Brielle *. Hey, I heard about what happened. I know we haven't talked in forever, but I need to tell you something about the wedding. About Delilah, and about why she really used your name, *. My hands trembled as I typed my response. What do you mean? Her reply came quickly. *, let's just say, this wasn't the first time she's done something like this. And this time, she didn't just lie. She panicked. Because the whole wedding. It's not what it seems. Not even close, *. I stared at Brielle's message on my phone, my heart pounding with a mix of hope and dread. After years of silence, why was she reaching out now? And why was she warning me about Delilah? I hesitated before replying. So many memories flooded back. Our childhood together, the laughter and fights, the moments before everything fractured. I hadn't expected to hear from her, especially not like this. Tell me everything. I typed, fingers shaking. Her reply came almost immediately. * not here. It's complicated. I can't risk anyone else reading this. Meet me tonight at the cafe on Maple Street. 8 p.m. No one else. Please, *. A chill ran down my spine. Meeting Brielle in secret felt like stepping into a story I wasn't sure I was ready for. But I knew I had to go. That evening, the cafe was nearly empty, just a few late-night patrons nursing their coffees. Brielle sat at a corner table, her face shadowed by the soft glow of a hanging lamp. She looked older, wearier. Her eyes held something I hadn't seen before, regret. Thanks for coming, she said quietly as I slid into the seat opposite her. Why all the secrecy? I asked, keeping my voice low. She glanced around nervously. Because if the wrong people hear what I'm about to say, it could ruin more than just a wedding. I swallowed hard. Okay, start from the beginning. Brielle took a deep breath. You know Delilah's always been ambitious. Obsessed with appearances, with controlling everything. But this wedding, it was never about love or family. It was about something else. I frowned. What do you mean? She's in debt. A lot more than anyone knows. Gambling debts, shady loans. The family business isn't as perfect as it seems. And she was desperate to keep it quiet. The wedding was a way to impress certain people, keep the money flowing. My stomach dropped. So she used my name to get a discount because she couldn't pay? Brielle shook her head. It's worse. She used your name to cover her tracks. To make it look like the venue gave her a discount because of a connection with you. When in reality, she falsified the contract, hoping no one would check. But why? Why risk everything? I asked, disbelief creeping into my voice. Because if the truth came out about her debts or the family business's financial troubles, it would destroy her. The wedding was a facade, like the rest of her life. I felt a surge of anger. And Aunt Teresa? Was she involved? Brielle nodded slowly. Teresa knew more than she admits. She's always protected Delilah, covering up for her mistakes. She pushed to keep this quiet, even after you found out. That's why the fallout was so explosive. It wasn't just about the wedding, it was about years of lies. I leaned back, trying to absorb it all. So the perfect wedding was a front for a bigger mess. Exactly. Brielle's voice was low, but firm. And now, with the scandal out, the family's reputation is on the line. That's why Delilah's lashing out, she's scared. I felt a strange mix of pity and resolve. Thank you for telling me this. I need to know the truth. Brielle hesitated, then said, There's one more thing. Something I found while I was looking through some old family documents about the venue and its owner. I blinked. What about the owner? His name's Mr. Dalton. He's been trying to expose frauds like this for years. Delilah didn't just mess up with the contract. She accidentally woke a sleeping giant. My heart skipped. What do you mean? He's got proof that this isn't the first time someone in our family has tried to pull a stunt like this. It goes deeper than just the wedding. A sudden knock at the cafe door startled us both. I looked up, meeting Brielle's eyes. They were wide, panicked. Maybe we should talk somewhere else, she whispered. Later that night, as I lay in bed, Brielle's words replayed over and over. The wedding was just the surface. There were secrets buried deep in the family, tangled lies stretching back years. And somehow, my name was caught in the middle. But now, with Mr. Dalton involved in Brielle's warning, I knew this was far from over. Something bigger was coming. The knock at the cafe door still echoed in my mind as Brielle, and I hurried out the back entrance, slipping into the night like shadows. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching us, maybe someone who wanted to keep all this buried forever. The next day, my mind was a whirlwind of questions. Who was this Mr. Dalton? How long had he been watching our family? And what exactly was the history Brielle hinted at? I decided to dig deeper. I started by calling the venue Willow Creek Hall, pretending to be an interested client. The receptionist was polite but firm. When I asked about the owner, she hesitated. Mr. Dalton is particular about who he deals with, she said carefully. He's very protective of the venue and has a reputation for not tolerating any fraud or dishonesty. Her words felt like a warning. Determined, I found Mr. Dalton's office address online, a modest building near downtown. I told myself I was just going to ask questions, but deep down, I felt this was more than curiosity. I had to know the truth. The office was older, with walls lined by framed photos of weddings, events, and newspaper clippings. Behind the desk sat a man with salt and pepper hair and sharp eyes, Mr. Dalton himself. He studied me carefully as I explained my connection to the canceled wedding. You're Savannah Blake. His voice was calm but carried weight. Yes, I said. I want to understand what happened, and why my name was used. He nodded slowly, as if weighing something important. Delilah's family isn't the first to try deception here, he said quietly. There's a pattern. Families who use names and lies to hide deeper problems. The venue is my life's work, but it's also a battleground for people like them. He slid a thick folder across the desk. Inside were documents, emails, even photos. This, he said, is why I had to cancel the wedding. I pored over the files. One after another, stories emerged of families trying to manipulate contracts, use fake connections, and cover debts. Then, among the papers, I found something that froze my blood. A yellowed, folded letter, dated nearly 20 years ago, addressed to a Miss Blake. The sender, Aunt Teresa. My hands trembled as I read. The letter was a veiled threat, warning the recipient not to expose a family secret that would ruin everything if revealed. The secret, that long before the wedding drama, a major financial scandal had nearly destroyed our family's reputation. Someone close had tried to hide losses by forging contracts and using false names, much like Delilah's recent stunt. But what shocked me most was the signature at the bottom, barely legible, Teresa Blake. How deep does this go? I whispered, looking up at Mr. Dalton. He sighed. Deeper than you know. The Blake family has a history of using deception to protect their image. Your name being dragged into this latest scandal isn't a coincidence. It's part of a pattern, one that's been covered up for years. That night, I called Brielle again. Teresa wrote threatening letters? I asked. This is bigger than we thought. Brielle's voice was shaky but resolved. Yes. And there's more. Delilah's debts aren't just gambling, they're tied to a failed business venture that Teresa backed. If it collapses, Teresa's entire influence in the family crumbles. So Teresa's protecting Delilah because it protects herself, I said, the pieces clicking into place. Exactly. But there's a wild card, Brielle added. Someone else in the family knows the truth, and they're waiting for the right moment to expose it. I lay awake for hours, thinking. The perfect wedding was never about love or celebration. It was a desperate attempt to cover up lies, protect power, and keep family skeletons hidden. But now, those skeletons were rattling louder than ever. And I was at the center of it all. The days after my meeting with Mr. Dalton felt like living in a whirlwind. The weight of the past, the secrets in that letter, the lies tangled through my family's history, it all pressed down on me like a storm about to break. Brielle and I stayed in constant contact. She had been quietly investigating on her end, talking to old family friends, digging into business records, and connecting dots that no one wanted exposed. Then, one afternoon, her voice came through the phone, sharp and urgent. "Savannah, I found something. You're not going to believe this." I met her at the small coffee shop where we'd first spoken. She slid a folder across the table toward me. "This is the real reason Teresa and Delilah panicked," she said. "Not just because of the wedding. They're hiding financial crimes that could ruin them. But here's the twist. The wild card I told you about is none other than Aunt Cheryl." I blinked. Cheryl? But she was defending them at the venue. Exactly. That's what makes it so explosive. Cheryl's been playing both sides. She's been gathering evidence for months, waiting for the right moment. And that moment is now. Over the next few hours, Brielle and I pieced together Cheryl's story. She had grown tired of being the family pawn, of watching Teresa and Delilah's reckless schemes drag them all down. Secretly, Cheryl had recorded conversations, collected emails, and saved documents exposing the fraud, the forged contracts, and the misuse of my name. She brought everything to Mr. Dalton, who had joined forces with Cheryl to protect the venue and finally bring the truth to light. The day Cheryl revealed herself was like a scene from a movie. Family gathered at a tense reunion, expecting petty squabbles and blame. Instead, Cheryl stood tall, holding the evidence. Her voice was steady. "I'm done covering for lies," she declared. "Teresa, Delilah, you used Savannah's name to manipulate and cheat. You almost destroyed this family's name, and the truth ends here." Gasps filled the room. Teresa's face drained of color. Delilah's eyes darted nervously. Then came the final, unexpected twist. Brad, Madison's fiancé, stepped forward. He'd been hiding his own secret all along. "I can't marry into a family built on lies," he said quietly. "I left the venue that day because I knew. I was pressured to keep quiet, but I won't anymore." His confession shattered the illusion of a perfect wedding and exposed the deep fractures beneath the surface. With Cheryl's evidence and Brad's testimony, legal action was swift. Teresa and Delilah faced serious consequences, financial penalties, public disgrace, and the loss of control over the family estate. Madison's dream wedding was gone, but what replaced it was far more important: truth, accountability, and the chance to rebuild what had been broken. As for me, I wasn't a victim anymore. I was a survivor, someone who stood firm, stayed true, and refused to be silenced. That weekend, while the family's drama unfolded, I returned to my lakeside cabin. This time, I didn't just watch the sun sparkle on the water. I felt it shine on a new chapter of my life. I posted a photo of that serene lake again, this time with a new caption. *, real strength isn't in hiding secrets. It's in facing the truth, no matter how messy or painful. Here's to new beginnings. *,